So I've got with me here Tamryn Dicks from Human Edge Resourcing, and she's going to be talking about how to find great productive team members for your team, for your firm, with the least amount of stress, effort, and admin today. Tamryn ran her own accounting firm for 17 years before she started Human Edge. And in her own words, she made just about every hiring, onboarding, and training mistake that you can imagine. So she's got lots of experience, and she didn't just make the mistakes and then forget about them. She learned from the mistakes and created frameworks to prevent them happening again. And she's really enthusiastic about sharing these frameworks with everyone because she's very passionate about making sure others don't make the same mistakes. So that sounds really good. Okay, we've got a couple of win of the weeks just before we start. 3 new clients this week for Anne. That's fantastic. I'm fast learning the benefits of Claude from Chris, getting to grips with AI. So that's amazing. Thank you very much for sharing those. I just wanted to say, if anyone does have any questions for Tamryn today, if you can pop them into the chat box as we go along, and just give us a little, say what it's about, what subject it's about, or what slide it refers to. And then we will come back to those at the end, and Tamryn will answer those all together. One final win of the week from Harish: disengaged with a few low value, high maintenance clients. That's great, Harish. Good to hear. Okay, so I will now spotlight Tamryn, and then I'll hand over to her to present her presentation. Okay, take it away.
Thanks so much, Holly. Thank you for the introduction, and for the detail about questions. I am very bad at multitasking, so definitely questions at the end, but you are so welcome to put them in the chat box as we go. Before we get into the training, I like to first start with why you should be listening to what I say. What is it about me that will actually be helpful for you? So I am a registered business accountant in South Africa, and I own 3 accounting firms. I have Farside Accounting and Foundations in South Africa, and I have Farside Solutions in the UK, which at this point in time comes to 19 years of experience of running an accounting and tax firm and recruiting for that firm. And then 3 years ago, I leveraged that experience and my connections in the UK to open recruitment and offshoring solutions for UK accounting firms. And we've expanded the recruitment section of that internationally. So I have 19 years of experience in building my own team and 3 years of experience building other accounting teams. So as Holly said in my introduction, I have made every hiring mistake you can think of, and I love training and I love making sure that other people do not make the mistakes that I have made. So I know that recruiting staff that are genuinely work ready is one of the most powerful levers for organizational excellence, even in today's age of AI. Because one of the things that I'm seeing over and over and over again by firms that have implemented AI is that the implementation is only successful if they treat their new AI like an intern, which means that all the mistakes that we make in hiring people will also affect us when we set up AI agents in our firms. So we need to get those mistakes fixed and sorted regardless of whether we decide we're going to use tech or we're going to use humans. So even if you think you're going to be growing your team with AI agents, this is still relevant for you. And it is hard to recruit the right way. Why does it feel like we never get work-ready recruitment right? So if you have not read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, then I do highly, highly recommend it. It is excellent reading for any business owner. And when it comes to building a team, he very clearly lays out what most of us get wrong when it comes to hiring. We hire out of desperation. So Michael has used the example of Sarah the baker to illustrate why his strategy of desperation doesn't work. I too am going to use Sarah, but my Sarah is an accountant who does bookkeeping and taxes for small business clients. Now, Sarah has managed to create enough growth in her business that it is now too big for her to handle all by herself. And before she knows it, she is working 12-hour days, skipping lunch, and starting to forget what her children look like. At this point, she accepts that she cannot do it alone, so she puts a post on social media that she is hiring a bookkeeper. She gets 650 applications, reads 400 CVs, and does 85 interviews. And an extremely exhausted Sarah is very lucky and finds a great bookkeeper called Jane. She dumps a pile of client files on Jane's desk and breathes a sigh of relief. Now, if Sarah is out of the office visiting a client, Jane answers the phone. If Sarah is busy submitting VAT returns, then Jane can handle the management reports. If Jane is on the phone with HMRC, then Sarah will accept documents from a client and get them filed. So it works beautifully. They are a fantastic team, and Sarah has her life back. But because they work together so well, the business will also continue to grow. And eventually it outgrows the two of them. So Sarah repeats her hiring process and she finds Paul. At first it's fantastic, but 6 months later, things start going wrong. The work for the nicest clients is done and up to date, but boring and fiddly clients are falling behind. The phone is answered and messages are taken, but no follow-up is ever done. So prospects are falling through the cracks and current clients are getting annoyed. And VAT returns have been submitted, but when reports are pulled and checked, errors are found, and the returns need to be corrected. So despite having 2 team members, Sarah is back to 12-hour workdays, no weekends, and not being able to go on holiday. All of this simply because she hired out of desperation instead of methodically and intentionally planning her hiring. And my experience of hiring out of desperation was even worse because I was running a 100% remote business, and that makes it much harder to train and mentor your new hires. So I actually skipped the lovely Jane and went straight to the chaos of Paul. Because when you hire someone without giving them a very clear job description and a clear set of duties and responsibilities, then that person is going to do the work they like doing, not what they have to do. And the bigger problem is that you cannot hold them accountable for that work because you never made them responsible for it in the first place. So before you even think of adding a team member, the first thing we have to do is plan it out. And the very first thing you want to do is spend time thinking about what you want your practice to look like and how you want it to run. If you have been running for a while, you might think that this step is a waste of time, but I am going to challenge you on that point, because when last did you actually ask yourself where you want your practice to go? Life happens, and it happens fast. Just this year, I feel like I blinked and I moved from January to August. And it is very easy to get caught up in everything that needs to get done instead of taking a step back and making sure it's all happening in the right direction. So do yourself a favor and work out what you want from your life, and then how your practice fits into that, and what that practice needs to look like in order to achieve that picture in your head. I believe this is a big part of what AVN does. So if you haven't actually asked yourself these questions and looked in this in detail, you're in the right place. Reach out to AVN and I'll get them to help you to sort this out. But when you have thought about what your practice looks like in the future, what you want from your future, then you can start to think about who you need in order for it to run that way. What departments do you need? What roles need filling in those departments? And which of those roles are you currently occupying? Because as the owner of the business, you are definitely occupying more than one role at the moment. And more importantly, which of the roles that you are occupying do you want someone else to take away from you? Because this identifies what you are hiring for. Our first instinct as firm owners is to just hire accountants as soon as we get too busy and hand over accounting work. But maybe you actually need an administrator or a receptionist or even an IT person to make your life easier and to enable your firm's growth right now. So answer these questions in order to work out which role is the right role to hire for right now. And once you know the roles you want to fill, then we need to create a clear job description for those roles. So you need to list the tasks and duties and responsibilities associated with those roles. Because we don't actually just use job descriptions for recruitment. A good job description does a lot more than just attract a candidate. So spend some time really thinking about the reason that you are hiring, what the work is that you want to get off your plate and your team's plate, and what the tasks are that are associated with that work. The deadlines and deliverables and responsibilities, accountabilities, these things all make up a normal part of the job descriptions we do for recruitment. But a good job description involves a lot more than just the title and the list of duties. Because even if you aren't going to include all of this detail in your job advert, you still do need to know more than the title and the tasks. Which of your clients are going to be affected and how are their outcomes affected? Which of your team members are being affected? Who's going to handle the handover and the training? Which relationships are changing? Where does your new hire find information? Who do they go to with questions? How do they know if they're doing a good job? How do you know if they're doing a good job? And how does this fit into your long-term goals for the company? A team should be built intentionally. If we hire out of desperation, then 9 times out of 10, we hire the wrong person. Whereas if we know the answers to these questions and we plan our staffing needs and hiring process and onboarding around these questions, then your chances of getting the right person skyrocket, and your chances of them being happy and loyal and productive also go sky high. Because we tend to think we can just throw bodies at a problem, but the chances are high you don't actually want a massive team. You probably want a small team, because a small, skilled, and efficient team working with a planned set of standards and procedures can actually achieve more than a huge, chaotic team that was thrown together in panic. What you are looking for is what is commonly referred to as top talent. That elusive, perfect team member who does their job brilliantly, doesn't require micromanaging, and produces the exact outcomes that you want. So you need to have a clear a picture of what your business is going to look like, the roles that create that business, the job descriptions for those roles. And the next thing you have to define is what top talent looks like in those roles. As accountants and tax practitioners, we have a tendency to think that top talent means brilliant accountant or tax expert. And in most practical cases, it does. But it isn't necessarily going to, because top talent is the best person for this job. So that might be a highly skilled technical accountant with chartered status and years of experience. But it could just as easily be a 19-year-old with a huge amount of passion, a willingness to learn, and an understanding of how TikTok works. Because what top talent is depends very, very much on what you need them to do for the business to grow. So how do you know what top talent is for your firm? Thinking and planning. You've envisioned the company you want to run. You've defined the roles. You've detailed the duties. And you've decided on your role in this new company with this new structure. Now, in order to get the right person to fill the roles, we just ask more questions. Which technical skills are required for this role? What character traits will result in success for this role? What soft skills are required? And of these three categories, which one is the most important for this job? Because you're going to be looking for something very different if you're looking for a forensic accountant than you are when you're looking for a client manager. So you need to know what it is that you need this person to produce in order to know which of these skills is most important. Because if top talent is the best person for the job, then you need to know what the job is before you can find them. And in all of your hiring to date, you've probably been focused on technical skill. Qualifications and experience were probably at the top of your list of requirements. So I'm going to tell you a secret, which won't be a secret anymore because it's now on recorded video. But I do not have an accounting degree. I run an accounting practice. In fact, as I covered in the intro, I have 3. And we have never missed a deadline. We have never lost an objection or an appeal. I have multiple letters of praise from auditors because our work is done so well that audits are fun and easy. And I never got my accounting degree. I have a few certificates, but 90% of what I know as an accountant, I learned on the job. I self-taught myself from books and Google and short courses and phoning the relevant bodies and asking questions. And the result is that even the qualified chartered accountants that I employ come to me when they don't know something, and I'm able to help them because I'm a good accountant without a degree. On paper, I am not what most accounting firms consider to be top talent. I would not make it through the first round of 90% of applications for accounting firms because I don't have a degree. So when you are considering what top talent is, do not stop at assessing technical knowledge only. Because top talent has the qualities that cannot be taught. You can teach bookkeeping, you can teach tax calculations, we can teach our software, we can give someone a set of standard operating procedures. You are looking for values that align with your values. The strength of character that allows this person to choose integrity when no one is watching. The empathy and kindness that causes them to treat your clients and the rest of your team well. Sometimes you are looking for the passion and energy of a teenager. Sometimes it's the experience and quiet wisdom of a senior citizen who wants to work half day. Sometimes it's a chartered accountant with technical knowledge. So you need to know what you are looking for, and it's not necessarily things that you can teach. Top talent will have the willingness and eagerness to go learn what they do not know. They will have the work ethic to self-teach and to improve and to grow by themselves. And the really, really top talent, they're going to have both. So they're going to have these innate qualities and they're going to have the technical knowledge and experience that you need. Those are your unicorns. But they do exist. I have seen accounting firms lose out on amazing candidates simply because of their age or their lack of experience or something on the CV failed a checklist. So don't get so hung up on little details that you end up missing on the perfect person. Okay, so you're looking for the best person for the job you need filled. Not necessarily the most qualified or educated person. And now that we're clear on that, we can look at how you attract this top talent. How do you actually find them and get them to work for you? How do you attract these people with your job offers? So we attract top talent by making our firm and the job you're listing attractive to top talent. If they want to work for you, if you are on the list of their dream employers, it's a lot easier, regardless of salary and benefits. Now, just to note that all of the points we cover here will cover non-accounting roles as well as accounting roles. But the very first point is probably most applicable to the accounting industry right now for accountants, because we're facing a bit of a skill shortage. And therefore, there is a fair amount of top talent floating around, but you also have a lot of competition offering massive salaries in order to attract them. So the first thing I want to point out is that you don't necessarily need to offer a ridiculous salary in order to get the right person. A huge salary will help, but we can't all afford them. A salary does need to be fair and at the very least market related, but a lot of top talent will actually accept a lower salary than the one your competitors are offering if you manage to get the other points right that we're going to look at. So salary is a point, a high one will help, but it is not a deciding factor. Even if you are offering a massive salary, you could still lose your top talent to another firm if they are doing one of these other things. So the first thing is building an attractive company brand. Is your company a place that people want to work for? Have you got a clearly articulated vision and purpose that your staff actually unite behind and believe in? Do they know what their work does for your clients? Are they excited by it? Do they live out the values that you've got painted on your wall? Do your staff experience the culture that you have in your head? And does your website actually show this to the people who come to it? Do you stand out from other firms, or do you just sound the same? Thinking through these things will actually help you with prospective clients as well, because you'll stand out from other firms. But standing out from other firms helps you get prospective team members. If your website clearly shows your passion, your values, and your belief system and what you really do for clients, then you're going to attract team members who align with those same things. And that same concept applies to your social media and your business accounts. Everything you do to build your brand to attract clients should also attract the right team members. So if it doesn't, it's because you haven't gotten clear on your messaging and what it is you do. So you need to spend some time thinking about that. But if you make your firm attractive to ideal clients, you make your firm the employer of choice. And that is worth more than a high salary. Statistics are showing more and more, particularly in the millennials and Gen Z generations, that people are looking for work that gives them purpose. Purpose outweighs salary for the bulk of the younger generation. They want to know that the work they are doing has a positive impact. So your competitor could be offering a salary that is double yours, but if your top talent aligns with your purpose, you have them. And the same applies to building a personal brand. Particularly in today's age, you and your personal brand are important, if not more important, both to your client prospects and to your team prospects. If top talent lands on your job post, the first thing they are going to do is research the company. But the very next thing they will do is research the company owner, and that is you. So your personal social media and your personal brand needs to align with the purpose and values you have declared that your business has. It speaks to integrity and trust. If you live the values you espouse on your website, then prospective team members feel safe in believing that those values are truly held in the company itself. It's also a note that you can go check the social media profiles of potential candidates, because these days they tell you a lot more than a CV does. Social proof is almost a rehash of points 2 and 3, but with slightly different emphasis. You need testimonials and case studies that back up all the claims you have now on your website and in your socials. So you want something that proves you live your values and proves the outcomes and the purpose that you have for your company. So you've done all the hard work to attract prospective clients, and that will benefit you in attracting prospective team members, because top talent wants to achieve. They want to have an impact. So they are attracted to companies that talk big, and they will love a website that is unique and talks about outcomes for clients, but they will believe social proof. When your prospective clients see your testimonials and case studies, they think, oh, that could be me getting those results. When your prospective team members see your testimonials and case studies, they think that could be me getting results for those clients. So set up your website and your socials, both business and personal, to talk about the results you get for clients, but share proof of those results as well. And top talent wants to work for top talent. They want to work for a business, not chaos. So if they ask you a question about internal structure or career development or processes during an interview and you stumble over your answer, you might lose them. You need to be clear on how you do things, how you measure performance, and what you expect of your team, so that they can be clear on how to outperform your expectations. Because top talent wants to work for people who are confident and professional. They want to know that you have your ducks in a row and you're going to help them get their ducks in a row. So that is why I emphasize planning first and not hiring out of desperation. If you are in a state of internal chaos at the moment, then reach out to AVN. That is one of the things that they do. They're going to help you settle the chaos. Don't go straight into hiring if you don't have standard operating procedures and a plan, because it's not going to get you top talent. And the other thing that top talent is looking for is chances for self-improvement. So you need to be able to offer some form of career development. It could be external courses and training. It could be a career path. It could be exposure to different roles or experiences. It could just be an internal mentoring program. But generally speaking, they want to keep being top talent, so they want to grow. Now, you might not be big enough to offer a full career path, but that doesn't stop you from being able to offer development. So think it through, be creative, and make sure you have an answer to this question, because top talent should ask how they're going to grow within your firm. Well-being is the next important point, because 2020 changed the entire world's approach to work. And honestly, most people have been burnt out and depressed since 2020. The mental health impact of the pandemic is actually a bigger pandemic than COVID was. People today value well-being and balance. It is worth more to them than any amount of money. And there is a lot of great talent out there that will take a lower salary if it means they get true flexibility. So if you can offer roles that provide well-being and work-life integration and freedom, you will attract them easily. And the important thing here, though, is to be honest and authentic. So don't promise flexibility if you just allow people to leave early on Fridays. That's not flexibility. Don't talk big about preventing burnout and then give them a 200-hour workload. Your aim for yourself should be to build freedom into your firm for you. And if you build it for your team as well as yourself, you will never battle to attract top talent, no matter what salary you are offering. And lastly, benefits. I've put it last because alongside salary, it tends to be the thing that people think will attract top talent. But honestly, the rest of the points are more important, and particularly the well-being. Top talent doesn't generally care if you pay for their medical aid and their pension. Obviously, it helps. But what they care about is purpose, impact, results, growth, and balance. So if you're looking to attract them with benefits, the benefits must align with those things. It's not about a bigger pension plan or birthday vouchers. You need to offer things that make their lives better and empower them to make other lives better. So flexibility, remote working options, allowing children or pets in the office or having daycare available, benefits that will attract top talent are the ones that give them time to have a life in addition to working. Those are the things that will help you to attract the best person for the job. And we retain these people by being honest and authentic and following through on the promises that we make in these categories, particularly the internal structure. Okay, so you've defined what your practice looks like. We've defined the roles. We've defined what top talent is for you. Let's take a look at how you actually find them. A strong recruitment process does not start with CVs. It starts with assessments. Most job platforms, including LinkedIn, will give you the ability to ask screening questions. Use the ability. Know your non-negotiables and screen accordingly, but also test for technical knowledge and the ability to apply technical knowledge. And after that, test for cultural and purpose fit. When I'm doing recruiting for accounting firms, our first step is a technical assessment, and candidates have to get a pass mark of 70%. Our standards are high. If they don't progress to the second step, which is the cultural fit test. And that means that for every 100 applicants I get on my job listings, I actually only end up doing about 1 or 2 interviews. But I enjoy those interviews because I only get great candidates. And it's very easy for me to provide a list of fantastic options to the firm that I'm recruiting for. It changes the entire dynamic of the recruitment. So assess first, but also be realistic and expect people to lie to you and to use AI as well. The good news is that you can use AI. You can give Copilot or Claude your candidates answers and ask them for verification questions that you can ask during an interview to check whether the answers were actually their own. So it works 2 ways. You don't have to worry that you're going to be duped by AI answers. You can use AI to work through the answers as well and find out if they are real. But bear in mind that they might not be actively trying to deceive you as much as they're trying to be good candidates. Sometimes people just polish the truth to look good. So try to give the benefit of the doubt without being naive and try to avoid hiring Daves. Remember that the purpose of an interview is to verify assumptions. So when we're going through assessments and CVs, we're going to make assumptions about that person, and you need to verify whether you have made the correct assumption or not. In today's age, that verification is vital because unfortunately, desperate people lie, and there is a lot of desperation out there. So we have to test people, put them on the spot in interviews, and verify that they pass those assessments on their own steam and that it isn't ChatGPT that you're about to hire. When you are interviewing, keep in mind a few things. Some people interview extremely well. So they're charming and they smile and they have great answers and eye contact, but it doesn't actually mean they're going to be a great employee. So ask hard technical questions and value-based questions to try get a better feel for the person. Ask questions about their personal life. Their thoughts on pets, hobbies, and world economic events will actually tell you more about them than where they want to be in 5 years' time. And some really great candidates interview badly, particularly neurodivergent and autistic people, is they can't make eye contact and they tend to be blunt to the point of being rude. They could interrupt you or lose track of the conversation, but they could also be your best hire ever. So be careful not to write someone off because of character traits that don't actually apply to their job. Because if you're looking for a forensic auditor, a lack of eye contact actually is just not relevant to what they need to do. So bear it in mind when you are chatting to people. Don't judge purely on the impression that they make in the interview. Dig deeper, because nerves and desperation can make people seem uptight when they are not, and liars are really good at seeming fantastic when they are not. So do your best to get the candidate to relax before asking hard or probing questions. Once you have chosen your candidate and they've signed your contract, the work is unfortunately not finished. A good onboarding process is your missing link in work readiness. Even the best hire is going to fail without proper onboarding. A candidate can have excellent technical knowledge and experience and completely fail to perform if their onboarding is not done successfully, because it involves a lot more than giving your new team member work to do. Work readiness is not about skill. It's about context, clarity, and confidence. And effective onboarding ensures that your new staff member understands a variety of things: your organization's purpose and culture, their role and their responsibilities, where to find the information to do their role, how the work is handed over, how it is delivered, how they achieve their objectives, who they hand it to. When onboarding is done well, new hires can become productive faster and they will stay with you longer. We have a free onboarding toolkit for you. I'm going to just grab the link and put it in the chat now. That everyone, yes, it is. There we go. So there are 3 parts to it. It has suggestions for onboarding where we cover some of these things. It has a checklist for you to work through, and then it has a little notebook for your new team member to work through. So it will help you to implement the elements that we are about to look at in a successful onboarding process. A good onboarding process has 3 elements. The first is a clear job description. You've already created this because you needed it in order to list the job, but you use the shortened version for recruitment. You want the longer and more detailed job description for your onboarding. When we talked about job descriptions earlier, we had a long list of questions that you needed to answer. And these questions will affect your new team member because they need to know the answers to these things. The clients being affected, the team members being affected, who's doing the handover, who's doing the training, who do they go to with questions? What are their KPIs? How do they know that they've done a good job? How do they know when the job is due? How do you know that they've done a good job? They need to know the answers to these questions in order to do a good job. You need to know the answers to these questions in order to prepare them to do a good job. Most important of all are the expectations. You need to be extremely clear on the standard of work that you expect and the speed of work that you require alongside the outcome that you need. If you don't lay out clear expectations right from the beginning, your new team member is just going to bumble along at their own pace, and you won't have any ground to take them to task over it because you didn't actually give them measurable standards to measure themselves against. So you need to make those standards very clear right from the beginning. And then your second element of good onboarding is the plan, preferably for the first 90 days. That is half of your probation period. And I can tell you, even the full 6 months of probation is not enough time to properly evaluate someone's ability. So please do not wing it. The better you plan it, the faster your new hire gets up to speed, and the sooner that you can tell if they're actually going to contribute and be productive or not. So plan and set benchmarks for training, for meeting the rest of the team, for work delegation, and for check-ins. Day 1 is a discovery day. You or the new hires manager should clear their schedule for day 1 and devote it to your new team member. Start the day with a welcome meeting so you don't leave them to sit around wondering what's happening next. It will start with them being introduced to the manager and introduced to your company. You want to cover the company itself, so you want to talk about history, values, purpose, ways of working, rules, codes of conduct, everything that you want them to know about who you are and how you expect your staff to act and to represent you. Cover that on day one. If you have a smaller client base, you can actually do an overview of all your clients. If you have a massive client base, then do an overview of the industries you serve, the client types, the relationships, and the services that you provide, and how you expect them to be communicated with and treated. Tell them about your team, about their new colleagues, who they are, who's responsible for what, who can help them with specific queries, who they answer to, and if you brought them as a senior, who they manage. And tell them about the tools of their work. So the equipment and the software and any equipment that they need to do their job, like the phone system and how it works and all the pragmatic aspects of the work, and a work overview of what you expect of them. So tell them what's going to be expected of them daily, weekly, monthly, what their deadlines are, what the standards are, and where to find the things they need. That should be day one. My recommendation for the full first week is that it is a training week. I know that many times we hire because we are overloaded and we desperately need the help. So you can begin delegating work from week one, but if you do so intentionally. Preferably, if you can, spend a week teaching them. You want to provide training on the software that you use. So on day one, you would have established which software they know and don't know. During the next 4 days, you can make sure they have time to learn the software that they don't have experience in. Most software these days comes with a certification or accreditation program, so you can actually get them to complete that and certify. Then you want them to go deeper into their clients. You might have done an overview, but you want them to know the details of their clients. So make sure you have client files available for them to learn. And then your specific ways of working. This is more important than most firm owners realize. It's the biggest hiring mistake that I see firm owners make. It's the biggest one that I made. I thought if I was hiring a bookkeeper, I could just hand over a pile of receipts and she'd get the bookkeeping done and it would be fine. It's a logical assumption. We work in an industry where there are set rules, there are global rules for how the work is done. But even with those global rules, we all have different approaches to the work. So the memos I use on journals, the way I do my filing, the way I lay out my chart of accounts, how I write emails to clients, the order in which I process receipts, those things are mine. They are unique to me. And you have your own way that results in a very clear client experience for your firm. Your new team member, no matter how brilliant they are, doesn't know your way of doing things. They have their way of doing things, and their way is almost certainly a mixture of all their previous employers. So you have to teach them your specifics, and this forms part of your work delegation process. And I promise you, if you don't do it, the delegation fails and it becomes frustrating. So teach them your ways of working and deliberately plan their workload for the first 3 months. Plan for a slow process of delegation. Your top performers, they probably will learn fast, but they'll be the exception, not the rule. Most people will learn slowly because no one, not a single person on this planet, can join a brand new company and leap straight into the thick of things on day one. You have to teach them things first. You could hire the best tax technician in the world, and if they don't know your company, your clients, and your way of doing things, they're not going to get it right. So make your expectations very clear from the start regarding how many hours the work should take, the deadlines. And when we're looking at deadlines, you don't just want the submission deadline, the review deadline. When do you want to be checking the work? And then they can still go over it, fix their mistakes, and bring it back to you again before it is submitted. The expected outcomes and standards, the expected behaviors and attitude, the purpose of the work as well as just the method. If they understand why, work exists, they will do a better job than just following steps. And then ask them to explain the work and the expected outcomes back to you in their own words so that you know you are both on the same page and you understand things. The suggestions in the onboarding toolkit that I shared the link for, it does include ideas for work handover and ways to make it more effective. So do grab your copy. It's completely free. And the third and final component of successful onboarding is check-ins. Everything else will be completely pointless if you don't follow up to check that your new team member is actually following the plan. You want them to follow the plan and implement the plan and understand the training and the work delegation. So have regular one-to-ones that you schedule with your new team member to review their progress and their comfort level. Treat these one-to-ones as sacred. Do not reschedule them if you can help it. Your new team member is valuable. You want them to feel valuable and supported. And you need to know their progress. If there are problems, you want to know sooner rather than later. So don't delay them. Try not to reschedule them. Meet weekly, twice weekly if you can, to track their onboarding and their integration process and their handover. And make sure you also schedule check-ins for work review. You want to give praise for work that is done well because it's good for morale and it encourages them to keep going. But you also want to give them positive criticism. So you need to give them corrective measures for their mistakes. If you don't tell them what they've done wrong, they won't know, they can't correct, they won't improve. I think this is probably the least popular part of being a manager, is giving criticism to our employees, but we need to do it. It is a good thing for them to learn what they've done wrong so that they can do better. Ask them questions to make sure they are understanding their work and not just following it verbatim. And if they have done something differently, ask them about it. Ask for their opinions and suggestions. Firstly, so you can understand why, you can see their thinking behind it, and are they actually understanding what they need to do? And secondly, because they might actually have a more efficient way of doing things that you hadn't thought of before. So it's worth asking about it. If you are battling to manage staff, particularly remote working staff, you are not alone. Accountants are taught to be excellent accountants. We are not taught to be managers. And 9 times out of 10, we did not choose this career because we want to work with people. We're good with numbers. We're not people. So if you are battling to manage staff and if you would like some help, we do have, again, a free guide on remote management. It's mainly for managing remote workers, but the principles in it will help you with teams in your offices as well. It will help you to monitor work and performance and to build a rapport with your team members. So grab that if it is something that you are battling with. Is the more effective your management process, the more likely you are to retain your staff for longer and to increase their happiness and their productivity as a result. But basically, the summary of everything we've gone through is that recruiting work-ready staff is not a singular event, it is a system. The system begins with intentional planning to attract the right people, filtering for competence and character, and supporting your new hires to succeed from day one. So implement this process, review your company, plan your roles, create clear job descriptions, define what top talent is for you, plan your recruiting system, and plan your onboarding. The organizations that adopt this approach don't just fill vacancies. They build teams that elevate performance, strengthen culture, and drive long-term excellent results. If you need help with any of these steps, I would love to help you. Obviously, Human Edge does recruiting and offshoring. That's what we do. But we also offer VIP days. So we offer one-to-one days where we help you with specific areas of the process. You need help training management staff. we do those as well. So whether you want us to just take over the recruiting and onboarding, or if you would like bespoke help creating your own processes, then you can reach out to me and I would love to help you. That is my LinkedIn link, I think. In the chat, I am popping in my Calendly link if you want to book a call. But otherwise, we are done and I'm ready for questions.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Tamryn. That's been absolutely wonderful. And thank you very much for sharing those really useful links to those resources as well. I do speak to a lot of accountants who have hired people and then it's gone wrong. And then they end up obviously back in the same boat again, and possibly even worse because they've had a bad experience of hiring the wrong person. And then they've got to start all over again, the whole process. So taking some time, I think, to go through a recruitment process, a proper process like that, is just going to save you so much headache and time, isn't it? In the long run.
In the long run, yes. I think we avoid it because it takes a lot of time up front, but it saves you so much pain down the road. So it is very worth doing.
And often we don't want to do it up front because we're in a desperate situation and we need someone. So we can't even be thinking about, planning and kind of what does my firm need to achieve and how, and working it back to who do I need and what roles do I need, just all seems overwhelming. So I'm sure that lots of people on here would love a bit of help with that. And thanks for plugging AVN as well. If it's chaotic, sort out the chaos first before you think about hiring. Don't just hire someone and throw them into the chaos. Hope for the best. And it's not easy, is it? It's not easy to get these things right and get the right people. So that's brilliant. One question that I was going to ask you actually, Tamryn, is you mentioned soft skills. And obviously they're incredibly important because a lot of the sort of technical skills and knowledge can be taught. But if people don't have that sort of character, the right character, and kind of align with your values and things like that, it can be very difficult to kind of fit them into your organization. So if you were recruiting, how would you kind of assess those soft skills? Because that can be quite difficult, can't it?
Yeah, it's probably the hardest part of doing it, to be honest. So, I know when as part of our process, like I said, we have the 2 steps. So we have a technical assessment and then we have what is a cultural fit assessment, but it's sort of disguised. I just ask questions about the person. So I'll ask why they went into accounting, and then I ask for examples of times they had to deal with a challenging coworker or a challenging client, and how did they resolve that problem. And obviously, like I said, they're going to put their best foot forward. So they're going to give you the best side of that thing. So that cultural fit assessment never actually tells me everything, but it's my first step for the interview. So I'm going to read through all those answers and it gives me an idea of the questions I want to ask in an interview. So I'll go, oh, you mentioned this difficult colleague that you resolved this problem with. Can you give me a bit more detail about that argument that you had? And you say that you resolved it by talking nicely on the side. They all say that. I don't know why. They all tell me that they had a difficult colleague and then they approached them quietly on the side to sort it out, and because of mutual respect, it was all fine again. I don't know if they pulled that story from AI, because I get it from nearly everyone. But then if you ask for details, then you find out, is it a surreal story? And I like to dig deeper into, when you say mutual respect, how did you show that? How did you get your colleague to understand your point of view? And the more you talk to them and the more you go through those steps, you're going to hear more and more about how they handle life and how they handle a problem. And that gives you a better idea of their soft skills. So that's why I say try to make the interview conversational. You've already gone through an assessment, you've already gone through a CV, you kind of know all the technical stuff you need to know. So now you really are just talking to them as a person, and the more relaxed they become, the better. Because a liar that relaxes too much is going to give themselves away. And someone who's putting a bad front up because they're scared is going to get better and better as they relax. So it gives you far better indication of who that person is if you can just chat to them.
Yeah, yeah. And it can be because the tradition, get me words out in a minute. The traditional recruitment method is to kind of ask for CV or application form, which is obviously listing all of their qualifications and experience, which is important. And then you have the interview and you ask them about that qualification and experience, and they blah, 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 blah. And nobody's themselves in a job interview, are they really? So it's very difficult to assess who they are really. But that's still the traditional recruitment process. And it quite often fails because you're just basing it on a CV and then asking them questions about that, but not actually getting to know the person. So that can, I think that is, like you say, assessing those soft skills and getting that out of people is the hardest part of recruitment.
And sort of, if you are in an interview, I find mixing it up also helps quite a lot. So you chat about their pets, and your next question is for them to explain what Xero's doing in the background when they enter a bill. And they either know the answer or they don't. You'll see them get stuck if they don't know an answer, a technical answer, and then switching back to something more relaxed, like their children or their hopes of the future, or why they live in the section of Sussex that they live in, that sort of thing. It really helps you to see the person and how they'll talk to a client as well, is how they're going to be talking to you. So that helps as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. I'm just going to nip back up the chat. Lots of thank yous in there. So thank you for the thank yous. Lots of useful information. The presentation will be available. The whole webinar will be available recorded on the Accountants Know-How Club later today or early tomorrow. So we'll send out a follow-up email with the details of that. Chris, not a question, but a statement. This was by far the best delivered webinar/presentation I've attended in a long time. The content, the depth, pace, clarity, all brilliant. Oh, thank you, Tamryn. Yes, and thank you, Chris, for your comment. Good to know that you've found it really useful. It certainly has been great. So we're at 1:30 now. So we'll wrap things up. And I'd just like to again say a massive thank you to Tamryn and a massive thank you to everybody today for joining us for this webinar. And we hope to see you at another AVN Accountants Helping Accountants webinar very soon. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.